WatchPitch podcast listeners and now videocast listeners and viewers. So great that you're here, and I'm so excited to have Maureen and Zelle to talk about some amazing sort of dynamics of collaboration. Mm-hmm. The last couple of episodes, we've been figuring out, or at least inviting conversations about how people connect. And I think that once people connect, of course, now we have the job and the business of collaborating so that we can move ideas forward in this startup entrepreneurial space. Mm-hmm. And this is your mojo. This is your dharma, really. Your website, collaborationawareness.com.
Collaborative Awareness.
Collaborationawareness.com is a super powerful site, and many people and many companies around the world have used your blueprint of we, which I want to talk about. And I'm just thrilled that we can get into this conversation and offer both our listeners and our viewers opportunities to take on a few extra skill sets and perhaps even some ideas that will help them be better collaborators, as well as now be introduced to you to access the resources that you offer. So thank you for taking the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's great to be here with you. We love all the work you're doing and are excited about it. And we could talk for about collaboration and connection for months. Really.
No, this is
nice.
Great.
Love it. Good. Well, thank you.
Well, tell us where you want to begin, because literally there's so many spots we could begin with.
Well, I think something that probably people who are watching this and now maybe even hearing it are noticing that
oxygen.
Your oxygen. And, this is something that truly is your lifeblood for a reason. And I think there's an interesting kind of alchemy with regards to that journey that has gotten you here that maybe isn't defining your work, but is certainly igniting it in many ways. And I wonder if you might start off with that, and then we can talk about some of the verbs that are necessary for collaboration.
So here's an interesting thing. So Zelle and I are the co-founders of the Center for Collaborative Awareness, and we got together and started working together 20 years ago. So the interesting thing about our whole lens on collaborative awareness really comes from the story of how we got together. So we met I have a very rare, fatal genetic lung disease. So it's only in women. Most women are dead within 10 years of onset. I've now hit 30 years. People just don't live this long.
And we're so happy about that.
Yes,
right?
I am too.
But we met the year my doctors told me I'd be dead, because that's when most people are done with, right? So it was a really fascinating experience coming into this situation. Couple reasons. I had actually gone into business with my best friend, and it blew up on us, which was crazy time in my life, coming into the year I'm supposed to die, right? And I had been married to Bill, my former husband, for 10 years. He's still one of my best and dearest friends on the planet.
He's a great guy, really.
Yeah, but we were transitioning out of our marriage before I met Zelle. So I literally, Bill and I actually, as we came out of the marriage, we were trying to gracefully go through this transition of our relationship, and everything out there, so much more today that's available to people, but everything out there was sort of how to be enemies.
Right.
In fact, we tried to do a do-it-yourself divorce, and we went to the bookstore, and one of the books in big red letters on the back said, "Do not show this book to your spouse." So if you have good
we're already starting there.
Yes. Let's,
you're an enemy.
Keep it away from the enemy, right?
Right.
So as I gracefully was moving through that with Bill, it was amazing, the very different possibility we created, which has now inspired more couples than you can imagine, the way we moved through that relationship. Now, on the other hand, when my business blew up and my business partner was like, "I'm not talking to you anymore," I felt more traditionally divorced in that space than I did from my marriage, because we had no understanding or way forward of how to gracefully transition out of that. And we're not really taught that in business. There is you go through the same emotions when you split up from a partnership in business as you do a marriage, but everybody acts like it's so different, and business is not emotional, and it's so not true.
Not to the founders, that's for sure.
Exactly, right? It's an emotional roller coaster.
Yes.
So coming into that experience, our world, our culture would say those two things ending meant that I failed, which I find really fascinating, because it's if I graduate from high school and go on to college, is that because I failed high school?
Right.
We come to a closure on things, and yet it's time for something new. So having those two experiences, plus the year my doctors tell me I'm going to be dead. And then I meet Zelle, right? Like, I'm not thinking future. I didn't leave my marriage to find someone better. Like, there just was not on my horizon. Certainly wasn't looking for another business partner at that point.
Right.
And so meeting Zelle was this really fascinating experience of, all right, like, what is this? This is interesting. I don't have, like, forever in my sights. That's not a... So even, like, when we first met and it was even a friendship becoming to be, you know, like a dating relationship, it was still sort of like, you know, we're not doing the get engaged, get married, white picket fence, like
that's just not in the script.
Yeah, it wasn't in the script at all. Neither was one of us was head over heels for the other one.
Not at all.
And we didn't really get along too well in the beginning.
We did not get along, but we weren't interested. We just weren't interested. In that.
And yet, something was there. There was a spark that we wanted to pursue. And yes, what Maureen was saying, neither one of us were thinking about forever, about, you know, white picket fence, those boxes that you grow up like learning about and wanting to pursue weren't
Which
there.
Which is for business and personal.
Yes.
Because literally, even when you start a business, there's a forever myth of like, if we don't keep this going, or we don't keep it going till we make millions of dollars, we failed.
Right.
And that forever myth, the pressure of choosing the right person and the right idea and the right time and everything, through that lens of what we look at is like problems and solutions. The problem is, I've got to make this business last forever or make all the money it can, or I've failed. And that kind of thinking, it's a really
serious
interesting
pressure.
thing. It's not
It
just
is.
pressure. It literally turns off whole portions of our brain that can actually help us to create a more thriving business. And that's the lens through which we work. There's a whole thing that goes on in my body with my lungs are filled with tumors. It's a disease only in women, so it's estrogen driven. But my lungs are filled with tumors, so I only have 10% lung capacity left. My doctor said I should not be able to speak at this like volume level with these lungs, right? But what happened in coming together and the what we created, because we didn't have the forever myth, we started off kind of dating, maybe sort of, not really. We started working together, like we both had our own individual consulting businesses that we began to sort of weave together a little bit.
Similar industry.
Yeah, we were both doing organizational development.
I see.
But from kind of different
really different
viewpoints.
lenses, for sure.
But what we realized as we were doing that work together is 9 times out of 10, a company was calling us to come in and fix what was broken. And for me, so like I often say I'm like the princess and the pea. Because there's so much physical pain in my body 24 hours a day. Like I have a migraine right now that is off the charts and has been going on 24 hours a day for 18 years. Literally, not a minute without it. But like if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know it. Yeah.
But part of that is because in looking at this whole problems and solution things, let's fix what's broken, let's figure out what's broken, my body takes on that kind of stressful thinking and approach to life. Literally, I can't breathe. Like when I start thinking in that kind of model, like I can't even lift my hands over my head. I can't get dressed. I can't shower. Like we think, like you guys have a lot more lung capacity than me, right? So you have stressful thinking and it's impacting you. You just don't know it as early. But we're walking around as a culture in this like weightiness of all the problems on the landscape. And what we figured out in our work together was like, okay, hold on a second. If we're going to go in and like fix what's broken and have all these companies think like these people are broken, the system is broken, this organization is broken. People are exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, just to get started.
Yeah.
Wait, we're going to go in and now talk about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so the approach that we started taking was like, okay, if we threw every tool out of our toolkit that had anything to do with like labeling any person or organization or anything as a problem, if we just wipe that off the map for a moment.
So it's not a problem.
Yeah, like let's just put problem solution aside for a moment.
Okay.
I love problem solution. I want to use it when like my car needs fixing. But we're finding when people are involved, like in an entrepreneurial setting, like in a startup world, when people are involved, the problem solution model is actually not working the way we want it to. Because if I sat you down today, Trey, and I said, Trey, Zelle and I really need to talk with you. You are a problem.
Right.
You're a problem. We got to talk about the solution to you.
I am so going to shrink away.
Right,
like
right.
I'm going to look, like I'm out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the energy? Where's
Yeah.
the connection? Where's the collaboration? And there's no way we
And the
can do it.
creativity.
Yeah.
Oh, the creativity is
Yeah.
actually cut off from your brain. You can't even
Yeah.
get to it.
Huh.
And like, how are we going to move forward and do something that I can't do alone? There's no way I can do this alone. I might have an idea or a spark of where to go, but I need other people around me to make my vision and idea like realized.
So I'm noticing you're referring to the brain, both of you respectively, and I'm thinking that maybe you've spent some time in this space and sort of how our brains are wired for collaboration,
Exactly.
you know, and how productive we are when we're kind of in fear and problem solution
Right.
versus, you know, desire and creativity or
Right.
or productivity. So
We've
yeah,
been
say
playing
more.
in the space of the neuroscience of collaboration. Like, how do our minds work together in groups? So we've gotten into an organization where there's a group of incredibly brilliant, incredibly educated, you know, very self-aware individuals coming together to get something done, and it all falls apart. So we were really
Trying to figure out
curious.
what's happening
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
what goes on? You got all the right things. Like, everything should be lining up. But there's another space that we really haven't been looking at as a culture. That is this we entity. So there's you, there's me, and there's a whole other entity in the relationship of we. And that we, of the three of us sitting here today, of founders in a company and all the people in their startup, there's a we entity that has a heartbeat and a personality and a way of being. And if you don't pay attention to the health of that we entity, then all the other elements that seem like they're in order,
Perfect on paper.
yeah, actually can still all fall apart. So it was that sort of drove us. First of all, I had to look at my own brain. If I lived in a stressful mind, if I saw the world through problems and solutions, if I was judging other people, if I was stressed out about this, like I call it noise in my system. Things, there's a landscape in front of us and things will ping us. Like, I'm driving down the street and somebody cuts me off, or the guy in that meeting takes my idea again. Like, those are all messages in my system that are pointing to like a filing system in my mind, in my subconscious mind, that actually informs how I act and interact with the world, right?
So that it's hostile and then it's
Yeah.
maybe aggressive and
Yes.
it's not collaborative.
How do we protect? How do we cut things off? How do I get me and mine? And I forget about you and we.
Yeah. So there's really two main modes that our brain operates in as humans. And we're either doing one of two things. We're either protecting or connecting. And as a species, we absolutely need both, right? So our safety brain neural circuitry, a whole set of neural circuits, can have me walk into a room. I use my meaning-making machine of my brain, the filing system of all the things I've thought and heard and seen in movies and grew up believing. And all those files get pulled when I meet you for the first time, or when I pitch in front of you, or whatever it is. I'm taking things in through my senses, and I'm using my meaning-making machine of my brain to determine whether I should connect with you or protect myself from you.
So this is like, am I under threat?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the first response.
But we don't even think of it as threat. Like, we think threat means fight, flight, or freeze, like total, you know, lizard brain.
I've
Like,
been
Right,
hijacked.
hunter. Yeah,
like,
sure.
It doesn't even have to be that. You could be like, you might have a voice that sounds like some teacher I had in high school that I didn't like. And I'm not like freezing in front of you. I'm not running from you. But you know what? My brain says like, oh, like watch
This
out
file
for
is
them.
matching up. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. This,
What,
Yeah.
what do I need to look for? How do I maybe pull back? How do I maybe not be as generous or generative in a conversation because I'm not sure. I'm going to protect a little bit. And that can chip away at how we engage with others.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. So in this choice to connect or protect, our whole society is really based on, because it's problem solution model, and problem solution model is super seductive, right? Because
because it looks like 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah.
Like, I found a problem, the solution. I got a solution. Like, it's seductive.
Yeah.
It's fast. It's a dopamine hit. Our brain goes, yes,
I solved it.
I've got this. Yes.
Yeah.
So we want more of it. But it means I'm taking a look at you and I'm scanning you for where you're a problem.
Yeah.
And you with, these two people, where's that going to be a problem? And it's so subconscious. We're doing it so regularly.
Wow.
Because like from advertising to, the way we get online, there's so much that's about protection that we don't even know it. So when we're in safety brain neurocircuitry, literally 1/3 to 1/2 of our brain is inaccessible. So I don't have the ability to be as compassionate or empathic or creative or generative with you when I have to protect myself.
So you're not able to access any of that.
I can't get
because
to
you're
that
just
stuff.
like the walls are up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if I don't even realize it, which is, I think, is so fascinating. So part of our work is like, how do you actually start getting people to notice, hey, there's another option over here. Like problem solution is one option. Use that when it makes sense. Use your safety brain when it makes sense. Like if I'm walking in a dark alley and I'm not feeling safe and my brain says, hey, get out of here, go for
Pay
it.
attention to that.
I love my
Yeah.
safety brain.
It's why we're still here as humans.
Yeah.
Right.
We were able to protect when we needed to. And our work is really about how do you mindfully make that choice in any given moment of where do I want to be giving my energy to, connection or protection? And we've found that in business, especially in startups and creating new ideas, I need my whole self to really engage.
Show up. And I mean, that's what they want. And you need that.
Well, and things are too complex not to have that.
Right.
There's
That's a great point.
Too much change, too much complexity, too much coming at us for me to show up in a way I might have, even 10 years ago. It's a whole different ballgame. So with this much coming at my senses and taking in all this information at a speed that we've never had before, if I'm consistently, if my default mode is my safety brain neurocircuitry, then the way I interact in my business and the way that I connect with my investors, like all of that is going to have a built-in tension that feels so normal
to everybody.
Yeah, like look, startup culture has so much of a fear of like, is this going to work? And how much are we going to get out of this? And how fast can we get running?
Can I make it to next week?
Right.
Yeah. And all of that, the excitement around all of it, the generating of ideas and making things happen, all of that is beautiful. Like we want to keep all those aspects. But if we can use our whole brain to actually have the conversations, to present in front of potential investors, I want to get up in front of you and this is what I love most about our work. We're thinking partners for people. How do you move people beyond problems and solutions to actually what we call the desire-invention model? And it's a connected brain neurocircuitry way of looking at the landscape in front of you. And as thinking partners, if you come to me with your idea for your business or your pitch or whatever it might be, or whatever's going on in your organization, there's a problem solution lens that we've been taught to look through through school, through our families, through the world.
Scientific
through social
method.
media.
Yeah.
Right? And it's got value, but how do we not make it our default mode? How do we have more choice so that we actually have an ability to say, okay, in any given situation, especially where people involved, like how do we make sure that we have another option? So let me describe to you what the desire-invention model is. Because this is literally, Trey, what keeps me alive. If I didn't live in this space, I'd absolutely be dead. And all my doctors would agree with that, right? Okay, so desire-invention looks like this. I wake up every morning as the creator of my life. We all do, right? And there's a landscape in front of me. Now, the way I was taught growing up was the landscape, I look for problems, like scan for the problems on the horizon. It's why when we wake up in the morning, our monkey brain, our crazy brain starts chattering at us because literally we're looking for, okay, what do we have to protect ourselves for during the day? We're so used to it, right? But if instead I wake up and I look at that landscape, and I'm not saying there's some rosy landscape. My life in this body is not rosy.
Right.
It's literally like I'm a prisoner of war and I'm tortured by 17 different people with wielding 17 different implements on my body. It's so intensely painful. And I'm allergic to all pain medication. So I don't even have an option to like go off into some la-la land and deal with it, right? So I've got to use my brain to see the world a different way. So your landscape might be World War III, I'm not saying it's a beautiful landscape. But knowing that landscape, I can either scan for the problems, which literally makes my body hurt more, or I can scan for what I desire. Now, when you ask someone what they desire in the landscape, a whole different set of their neural circuits go on. It's a very different conversation. So that's the desire part of desire-invention.
I can already sense like how that opens up.
It's a very
so many
creative
possibilities.
space. It's a very open to what are the possibilities. It's looking to how you can connect with others to build.
There's almost a connection.
Yes.
An energy out there.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So that's the desire space.
Okay.
So then in that, once I start figuring out my desires, and I might be figuring them out with others, co-creating that idea with others, looking through the lens of what I value. But then I want to use my creative energy really to co-create, to invent, to design how I want to get to those desires. So I'm still saying like, okay, what's the lay of the land here? How do I want to get there? But instead of having the problem solution model use it if that's what you want to use. I'm all for it. I don't have any idea what model anybody should be using. What I'm really passionate about is making sure we have a choice. So if you really want to use that and you know that shutting down a portion of your brain is really helpful when you're going to, speak to some potential investors, absolutely go for it. Maybe that's what you need to do. But what I love is the idea that if I'm talking about what I desire, if I'm then inventing, if I'm using my creative energy to design something, I'm using design thinking, I'm actually in a space where my brain is lighting up in ways that it couldn't otherwise. And there's a whole default mode network in our brain. Like literally, I think this is so fascinating. This is really probably just within the last maybe 10 to 15 years at the most, where they've realized by mistake, actually through a set of research, that when we're not actively working on something, like focused thinking of something, we have a default mode network that thinks about our relationship to other people. So when you're not like trying to fill the coffee maker with the coffee beans, you're literally thinking about what other people are thinking about, what they think about you, what you think about them. That's our social default mode network. Okay? But when I'm in
we're looking for connection naturally, like in that
it's why
white space.
We've survived and thrived as a species is because of that. But what they also have proven is that when we're in problem mode, that default mode network goes down. So if I'm in problem mode, I'm not actually making use of my default social network where I'm going to get the co-creative ideas
and the collaborative opportunity to invent something new. So this strikes me, I mean, one of the big lights going off right now is just social media as an engine kind of responding to this natural inclination for people to connect and think about others. So it's kind of sort of out picturing and sort of reflecting what's going on anyways.
Well, it's true. And it's often why when people are done doing whatever they were working on, that they'll go and scroll through Facebook.
Right.
Because it's that's
or some other social platform.
How
do I connect?
I'm thinking about other people. But this is the balance.
Are they thinking about me?
And what are they thinking about me, right?
So now I got a problem?
Well, because if I'm actually moving around the world in safety brain neural circuitry, I'm posting things in social media to protect myself. I have to look a certain way. I have to seem a certain way. People have to believe this about me. I'm actually in protection mode even when I'm trying to connect.
So we're really losing, actually, maybe a big part of the potential that's there.
We could be, for sure.
Yeah, we could be. What would be interesting is if there was a platform, and maybe some of these sort of project management platforms like Basecamp or Trulio, or there's a bunch of other companies that are in this space of creating collaborative, supportive space for people to invent and create together, and create teams to do that. Slack's another one. Designing an ecosystem that allows people to really take advantage of all of their brain, and maybe really addressing this piece of it's not always problems and solutions.
And part of the way that you do that, there's two things we really found. One is what we call creating a clean mind. I have to clean my own mind out of all my subconscious filing system that makes meaning of your behavior and how
in
that
the world
shows
do you
up.
do that?
And that's the space I love playing.
It's really fun. It's actually one of the things that really lights me up is that our mode of our brain that does want to look for problems is also our way to cleaning up our mind. Because when there's something outside of me that I feel either frustrated about or delighted by, it's pointing to something for me of something I want to develop or grow or build inside of myself. And so when I can take that information and in essence turn it back around to inside myself.
To get curious about why you just triggered me, why I was annoyed by that thing. Use the stress in the system. Don't avoid it.
Yes.
And get curious about it.
Yes.
Get curious about
Love
it.
that.
Because it means something. It means something matters to you. Because Zelle and I could both be watching the same thing. I'm totally triggered by it. He's not. That's because we have different filing systems of our mind.
Sure.
I've got a story in there somewhere that says, like, be annoyed at this, and he doesn't. So let me figure out what is that story? Let me pull it up. And here's a really cool thing. That everything in our subconscious, which literally runs our life. Like we think what I'm thinking and saying and doing right now is running my life.
Estimates up to 99%.
Yeah, is done by our subconscious mind, which is all the files we've created. Our brain,
Goodness gracious.
it takes up so much of our body's energy. We don't want to relearn how to brush our teeth every day, right? So we put things on autopilot.
Yeah.
I got a lifetime of autopilot going on, and it's informing the exact words I'm choosing as I'm talking to you right now, even though I think I'm choosing them, I'm not really choosing them, right? Okay, so if I've got these files, right, and I'm pulling them, and you do something that bugs me, I want to know what file in the system made me think that, because Zelle doesn't have that file, I have that file. So you can change everything in the subconscious mind, but not until you bring it from the subconscious, meaning you can't access it, to the working stage of the conscious mind, right?
Where you then
have an ability.
You ask a question. You go
Yes.
like, what is that? Like, where is that coming
Exactly.
from?
And the only way to know what's going on in your subconscious mind is to pay attention to what pings you. Either what I love about you, like if I see you showing up in a certain way and like that's so cool and I love that, that's pinging one of my files just as much as the guy who drives me crazy. But those are messages in the system. So the pings are the noise, both positive and challenging. They're the noise in my system. Let me pay attention to them, get them to the working stage and go, oh, I just felt that when that person said that to me. Okay, that's interesting. I want to bring those to the working stage and get curious about them because I want to live a life where I can see others and be and feel seen, where I can love others and feel loved, like where the real basis of why I'm showing up in the world, why I'm bothering to stay alive.
Right.
That's about loving and being loved. I don't care if it's about your business, loving your business, loving the people you're working with, about your community, about your family. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
And when I have stories in that filing system in my mind that make me think I need to protect myself from you or the world or whatever it might be.
Yeah, there's like so much of you that isn't
yes,
there.
Yes. And then I'm not actually present in this life. Like I am literally, I've been on hospice for 14 years, okay? And I'm not dead yet. I am one of the healthiest people you will ever meet, even though I'm one of the closest to death. Like literally, right? That is because
amazing.
I've been looking in my subconscious mind for enough years, and I'm working with other people as a thinking partner to say, okay, let me take whatever you're doing, and let me give you that new, like I call it an alternate universe. I can help you access an alternate universe, one where it's a lot easier to breathe. Whatever your version of easier to breathe is, like not waking up in the middle of the night, like having a good drive to work, having a great relationship with your partner, having a great relationship with your kids, whatever that is, like that's a shift of your brain. So that's one piece. It's a clean mind, and the clean mind comes, there's tools like we have something called the curiosity chain that helps you, like a really simple process to take you through changing that part of your brain.
And this is on your website.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But then the second piece is really about relationship design. So if I'm looking at this desire-invention instead of problem-solution, I've got to be able to design what it is or invent what it is I desire.
This is creating culture, literally.
Yes.
It is.
Yes. Yeah.
It's exactly what it
Okay,
is.
so super curious
It's
about
design thinking for culture because we design cars and smartphones and chairs, but we don't design relationships. We just sort of cross our fingers. We pull the off-the-shelf way. Oh, this is what business partners are supposed to be
Or we let our
together.
subconscious run the show, which
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Right.
Okay.
So we created a collaboration process called the Blueprint of We, and it's really a design document for a relationship. And the relationship could be 2 people or an organization of thousands of people. But it's literally taking some very simple principles of design and saying, okay, if we're going to get in this together. So let's say the 3 of us are going to start a business tomorrow, right? There's 5 components that we each write about in an actual design document that we're collaboratively working on together.
So we've chosen to launch this new enterprise together, and let's get this blueprint out.
Because there's billions of people on the planet. There's a lot of ideas and businesses that we could be doing together, right? But I'm choosing you and you. And I'm choosing this year right now, and I'm choosing this path. If I'm not consciously aware of why I'm doing it with you right now in this manner, then I'm not actually creating the path that's mindful and that's working for me and working for us and working for the we, right? As soon as I understand the story of why, and I know yours and yours, like, why did you choose me? You could have chosen someone else.
And this is
it's part of the design document.
On the document.
And so you're connecting on your passions for the other people and what you're doing together.
And you're codifying why you're in.
Yes.
Because, so like Zelle and I met 20 years ago, right? And we decided, because we didn't have forever and the off-the-shelf idea of relationship, we said, okay, our ultimate goal with each other is to be in a good place with each other the rest of our lives. We don't have any other forever thing. Let's just say we're going to be like in it the rest of our lives in a good way, whatever that means.
I want to be connected to this other person, some way, shape, or form. That's what we're creating first.
And so the Blueprint of We, this collaboration process, actually was born out of the first 3 months we were together. It was a personal thing that's now become a business thing in 138 countries around the world.
Yeah, we can tell you a whole bunch of different ways it's used for contracts, for performance reviews, for hiring new employees.
Boards of directors.
So on a massive scale, not just like relationships between 2 or 3 people, but entire companies.
Entire organizations. So when Zelle and I met and we decided, like, okay, so let's be in a good place the rest of our lives, we're like, oh, that sounds so nice. And I went home that night and I thought, I would have thought that with my business partner and that didn't happen. Like, how do we actually build this differently? Like, I'm about to get into both business and a personal relationship with someone when society told me I just failed with 2 other people. Like, I gotta find a different lens on this, right? And I'm gonna be dying soon, so like, let me think about this differently
and get good at it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I went home that night after this conversation with Zelle, like 3 months into our relationship, and I wrote down the same 5 components that people are writing in their own blueprints of we today. I wrote those down that first night, and I thought, okay, if we know why we're in this, why are we choosing us right now at this time in this situation? And we're also, big piece of this design document is, tell me about who you are. Give me a little bit of information for my filing system of my mind, because my brain will make up what your behavior means, right? My subconscious mind is going to pull all the files that says, when you do that, it means that. Doesn't matter whether it does or not. Like, I'm going to already predict what your behavior means. So the cool thing about the blueprint, so, okay, we're going into business together. We might have known each other for 20 years. We might have met yesterday. But if I say to you, like, okay, guys, this is what I look like when I'm really in flow, when things are really working for me. I show up like this, I talk like this, I act like this. It looks this
letting
way.
you know this is what I look like.
Yes, this is
great.
Like
when I'm in the zone, things are great.
Yes.
This is what I'm, okay.
Yes, and here are some invitations and boundaries around helping me have more of those days. This is what I need in the we space to have more of those days.
Nice.
Okay? On the flip side, I'm also going to tell you what I look like when I'm like over the cliff stressed out. I look like this, I act like this, I talk like this.
Don't take it personally. It's just like, this is what's going on
literally
with us.
Don't take it personally, because I've been doing it my whole life, right? And it's just how I've created a path, a pattern of handling stress. So let me just tell you what it looks like while we're all sitting here calm and happy.
I get quiet. I get sarcastic.
Yeah.
I get loud. I get belligerent.
I run away. I don't want to talk.
I'll become invisible.
Yeah.
Like the whole range.
Yeah, let me just share it with you. It's so benign when we're all just sitting here and we have our whole brain.
So you can
Yeah, sure. I guess I do that. Yeah.
And then let me also give you some invitations and boundaries around how to help me pull me back from that edge, right? So I can't ask for the very things I need the most when I'm in that part of myself. So if I could give you some information ahead of time, Zelle likes to call this the what to do in case of fire manual part of the blueprint. Like,
because there was one?
Because
there was an on fire.
Yeah, there was some on fire.
Yeah.
Right? I described to him exactly what it looked like when I got in a big fight with someone because that's what I did my whole life. And I said, here's some things I've never told anyone before. But hey, if you could try this, it's never a demand. It's always just here's some information. He could have been like, nope, not going to do that. But he did. He tried what I
used the instructions.
What I invited him to.
I used the instructions and I did an experiment to see if it would actually work because I had in that moment it was either okay, I can do nothing or I can try this thing. And I tried it and it actually worked. It was crazy.
Yeah, so my whole thing was like, if I get in a fight, like give me the keys to the car, I'm out of here, right? Like just let me go. I don't want to talk about anything with you, right? For a lot of people, that's the worst possible thing you can do to them. Like all they want to do is sit and talk about it.
Right. That's what they really want.
Yeah. Right? So by saying to Zelle, like, okay, so it's going to look like this. We're going to get in a big fight and I'm going to yell at you like, I'm out of here. I want nothing to do with this. And I'm going to walk out the door. But what I'd like you to do is walk out after me. And then I'm going to go into another room and slam a door so hard, I hope it breaks your arm. I really will. I hope it breaks your arm. I'd like you to open that door and come on in. And he's like, okay. Right?
And this is now you're describing this during a very nice, like over dinner.
Yes,
or whatever.
It's so nothing. It's so nothing. I'm just
it's
like
information, and it sounds like really humorous.
Yeah,
exactly.
At the time.
Exactly.
Yes.
He's not in it. He's just hearing it, right?
Okay.
I said, okay, so, and then when you come in that room, I'm going to yell at you something like, I told you I want nothing to do with you, but I'd like you to sit down next to me and put your arm around me. I said, and then I will physically push you away from me with more strength than you think I have, but I'd like you to hold me closer. And it sounds ludicrous, right? But I realized if I looked back, and this is one of the ways you can really understand. So in the blueprint, it's called your interaction styles and warning signs. The best way to understand what your warning signs are to look back into past relationships and see
what you
how,
did.
What did I do?
Yeah, how did I break that?
Yeah.
Actually, I can't remember the exact incident.
Yes. And what did I wish for in that moment that somebody else might have done, right? So I basically just told him, like, yeah, this is what I wish somebody would have. Because when I'm acting ridiculous like that, I actually want someone to say, like, okay, I still love you, even though you're a total lunatic, right? That's what I'm wanting. But I'm not going to ask for that.
Right. Not certainly in that state of mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing is, like, the first time it happened in our relationship, just like I said, why wouldn't it happen every other time in my life? And he did what I asked. I don't know
You
how.
followed the blueprint.
I followed the blueprint because there was nothing else, even though I'm like, I know she told me this beforehand, but it doesn't look like she really wants this.
Because she's saying it and she's yelling at me. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But I got nothing else to do, so let me try it.
Here's the interesting thing that happened in this particular situation. So the second time, this happened twice, the big fight, the whole thing, he came after me, right? I think maybe even the second time he stood at the doorway and said, I know you might want me to come in there and like put my arm around you, but like I'm too mad right now and I can't do it. But that's different even than someone just like blowing you off, right?
I would have disappeared.
Yeah.
You would have disappeared.
Yes.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
So the cool thing that I never anticipated, I thought by sharing that with somebody, hey, maybe for the rest of our relationship, if we get in a fight, someone might every now and then come after me, right? What I didn't expect was that after that second time, for whatever reason, all the power of running just left my body. Like at some point in childhood, I had put on a pattern that was very smart at the time. The running away was like, someone's arguing, there's chaos in my house, run to get away from it, right?
And
that
the
was
best
super.
thing she could do in the
Yeah,
moment.
it was the healthiest thing to do. And I never brought it to the conscious mind again to question whether it was really healthy in every other adult relationship I had, right?
It was a hard file.
Yeah. So by just speaking that to one person, having one person show up just trying to do what I asked, literally like the running, I have not run in 20 years since then from him or, surprisingly, from anyone else in my life. It literally broke a pattern because I told one person and they came through.
And what we were doing was actually like designing our relationship as we were building it. And it was this trial and error. It was design thinking where you put out a prototype, you try it out, and you might be tweaking it along the way to make it work for how you're going to engage. And it's this, this is important to me. This relationship is important to me. Right. So I want to create something that's going to work. Because if I had pulled what I saw my parents do, we wouldn't be sitting here
together.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's also really revealing is your genuine curiosity about just experimenting with the possibility of this. So once this is out on the table and you've completed this blueprint for one another and you've got a little bit more of an insight, now you've almost got a roadmap for navigating these periods of time that are going to happen. I mean, I can't imagine one business that exists without stressful situations.
Exactly. It's going to happen no matter what.
Whether it's between the people here or something outside of
Exactly, with customers or with partners. I mean,
and it's only going to get more so because we're getting more complex and we're getting faster. Everything's speeding up. Right. So those things are going to happen. So how do you build a better foundation? Like the third component of the blueprint is called custom design, where you literally design how you're going to do what you're going to do together. And sometimes this component takes on like aspects that would be in a traditional legal contract. It's why blueprints can be used as traditional legal contracts for people who feel like the relationship portion of contracts is often missing. There's a lot of lawyers and mediators who are using them around the world.
No kidding.
It's been very popular with attorneys, and a lot of companies that live and die by their contracts are using blueprints as their traditional contract. So when you custom design, when you look at...
That's going to save so much time and so much conflict and actually so much money.
Exactly.
It's true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you can get out in front of it and create this architecture and this design for relating to one another and for maybe even departing from one another.
Exactly. Transitions are powerful too. Like we can make them a beautiful thing that just, how do we create what we call a relationship container, a new relationship container? So yes, the story of the creation of the blueprint came about because of our personal relationship, but it was, after a couple of years in, we actually had decided that we merged our businesses together and we started, now we're together 24 hours a day. But we realized that traditional contracts that we were using didn't resonate with us anymore. And we made a choice that we thought was probably the worst mistake we'd ever made in our business. We were going to tell all our clients, which are like governments and corporations and universities, like people that live and die by their contracts, that we were only going to use blueprints from now on. We thought we'd lose most of our clients.
Yes.
We have not lost one in 18 years, which has been amazing. And the number of stories of those clients who have gone on to use blueprints with their clients.
Because it was so changing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it takes into consideration everything you want to make agreements. Like, it's all about clarity. Design is a clarity piece. If I'm going to design the relationship, and the blueprint is a living, breathing document. The one that Zelle and I wrote 20 years ago, we still have that document, but it looks nothing like it. It's been reiterated so many times over the years. We learn more. We pick up another piece. We add another thing. We have a fight, and everything we had in there didn't work. It's like
now we need to go back and design again.
And so do you find that as a practice, and I really want to encourage everybody to go to your website, can they download a template of the blueprint?
Yeah, there's all kinds of materials and templates.
And you can also engage what we call a collaboration coach that will help you
it's a design thinking partner for the relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you can do that like in an ongoing manner or just for a very specific sort of...
Both. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It's so exciting when you start realizing how much you can design the relationship. Yeah. Like you can, and it's not a long, laborious process. It's an iterative design of rapid prototyping. Like, how do we get in, design a little bit, live with it for a little bit, design some more.
And do you find that little bit is a quarters period, like a 3-month period, or is it shorter or is it longer?
There's a couple of different. There's literally like things that will start showing up like every week. Changes, like there's little tiny pieces that you're iterating on a regular basis with smaller experiments, and then there's big ones where we say like check in and update your blueprint every 3, 6, 9, 12 months for that first year. Then at least be doing it. And there's also like we have decks of collaboration cards where you get together, your team is in a meeting, first 5 minutes, pull one of the cards with a question.
Just to set the culture.
Just, yeah,
for the
like,
meeting.
let's learn
Nice.
one more thing very quickly. Take 5 minutes, pose the question, everybody answer it, drop it into your blueprint, keep moving. How do you keep alive this idea of getting curious about who you are, how you like to work, how you show up? Because as soon as in this collaborative space, collaborative awareness as a definition is that to us, it's that space beyond self-awareness. So it includes self-awareness, but my self-awareness, if I'm not collaboratively aware, if I'm not looking at that we entity, isn't enough, right? So the beauty of it is when I'm collaboratively aware, my creating a blueprint with you, being in this relationship with you, I learn more about me. So even though in the blueprint, I'm like getting curious about you guys or our business or our culture or whatever it is, I'm also getting curious about me. And you notice something about me and you notice something about me. And now we are like literally.
That's powerful.
It is.
Yeah,
It's an upward
everybody
spiral.
Is gaining insights and they're
Yes.
being transformed and the whole bar is being raised.
Which is why you can move faster and you're more agile and you're more resilient and more adaptable.
And I think this other piece of, as I'm aware and inviting others to see me in flow, and you're doing the same with me, we're building off each other and creating that upward spiral of how are we going to thrive? Because I need that. I need other people to bring out the best in me.
Well, we
So
can't evolve
true.
as a species
So
at
true.
this point without the other, and yet we're becoming more and more divisive because our safety brain is our main mode of interaction.
Right. Well, it's certainly being reinforced. I mean, I think for me, one of the really super powerful pieces here is this space of acknowledging that we have to collaborate in order to solve these really big, important problems.
And let's
Okay, so
pause
you
right
just
there.
said problems.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? Yeah.
In order to create
Well, in
what
order
we
to create
desire.
and invent something
Yes.
that we can.
And literally that shift that you
Yeah.
just made in those two things is two different ways that people turn on because of it.
Yes.
It really
And
and
so-
I lived the same
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
until
it's-
my body
it's
said,
so seductive.
Yeah,
and, it's,
Yeah.
and it's exactly
It's a
what we
good
go to.
reflection.
yeah, right?
And so it's going back to these pieces of a clean mind. So if I can be aware of when I jump into problem solution, because I jump into it all the time.
Yeah.
I catch myself and say, oh, let me take a step back. What do I want? What is the landscape? What do I desire? And what do I want to design as a relationship to then move forward to like bring about what I see?
And we
Love
often
it.
look at that as either, like when I'm in problem solution model, I'm literally living in the eye of a storm. And what the clean mind and the relationship design helps move you out of is like moving from the eye of the storm to looking at a storm 2 miles off the coast that's moving in the other direction.
Yeah.
That's what desire-invention does. It moves things that feel like the sticky problems off to the coast. It doesn't take things away. But when I'm using the stress in my system, when I'm noticing the things that make me crazy or hurt my feelings or I'm judgmental about, and I really take them and say, ooh, I just noticed. There's a flashlight. I just thought that thought. It felt yucky. And because my body is literally like the Princess and the Pea of like I feel it early, I feel because my breathing will change if I think something negative about you or the meeting we just had or that product or whatever, like literally my breathing gets harder. My migraine spikes. Like everybody's got that.
Yeah, sure.
And then we want to like calm the noise in our system by some addiction or another. We're trying to calm that noise because no one's ever taught us how to actually take the noise and use it, get curious about it, figure out what matters to us, be able to flip it around with a simple tool like our curiosity chain, with something like the blueprint of we, where we can design a relationship. Those two things help us access a different universe. And it's
Completely.
mind-blowingly enlivening. Trust me.
And it's fun. I mean, I get lit up. It sounds weird. I get lit up when I get frustrated. I'm like, oh, there's something more for me to learn. There's
Yeah.
something more for
So
to
you
come
have
out.
a curiosity muscle almost. It's
Yes.
just like grown.
that moves the storm 2 miles off the coast. And then it's not overwhelming.
So I am sure that listeners and viewers of this are just chomping at the bit as to onto how they can find out more about what you're doing and how they can also learn some of these skill sets and integrate them not only into their lives, but maybe into their organizations and start working on this right away.
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
So go to collaborativeawareness.com.
Okay.
So we also have the collaboration store where you can get some of these tools.
Cool.
You can hire a collaboration coach or a thinking partner.
Okay.
And whether that's like looking at your company culture, looking at a particular business idea, an individual, like we work with a lot of, CEOs and different people within an organization who are trying to shape where their organization is going.
Or shape it in a better direction.
Yes, yes. Whether you're a team that's working on a project, maybe you're a virtual team, maybe you're an intact team. We work with people all over the world. We have facilitators all over the world who are collaboration coaches.
Great.
So being able to just shift that lens a little bit and start get the awareness phase of where you're using safety brain more often than connected brain, because you want to get in front of people and make your business fly.
Right.
And so when you take a look first at home, like what's my own brain doing when I'm about to get into this collaborative space, let me make that as healthy as I can. And then let me design what I'm doing with other people. You create a totally different landscape. You're building a foundation that makes everything else feel so much more effortless because the stuff is going to happen. Like it actually is going to blow up over and over again. It's not that like
this is growth. This is just life.
Yes.
This is just what it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it's going to weigh you down.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like it's burying you. You're not overwhelmed by it. It becomes more of a spark, and you can see when the storm is 2 miles off the coast, you can start figuring out what you're going to do next instead of feeling like you can't see your way forward.
Right.
So we love working in an organization. We love working with individuals to try and make that shift. It is such an exciting space when you see people start to really get where that shift can take place in their life.
And if I can say one other thing.
Yes.
To get that awareness going and really like spark that desire and understand this on a wide scale, invite Maureen in to talk about the desire-invention model, to talk about how do we create these alternate universes. Because first step is really getting this awareness of what's possible.
Yeah.
And
I think that people are really thirsty for something else that's possible. I think when you're in conflict, it would be so great to know that there's a pathway to get out of it, but creatively, or get through it, but to get through it creatively with something new. Because I think that when we create something new, now we've got enthusiasm. Now there's actually fresh blood. There's fresh air in the room.
Yeah.
And now we've gone a place that we couldn't have imagined if we had just stayed in our problem solution mode.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Super powerful. I am so glad you are here. Thank you for so much of just being in the world and taking something very personal and universalizing it in a way that practically every person on the planet can apply to their lives. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this time.
I think I'm going to stick around a little longer.
All right, good. I'm glad to hear
So
that.
am I.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. Cheers. That's it.
Thank you.
Good. Gosh, there were at least 5 different places I wanted to go that would have taken this, another place. And so
I kept thinking of stories and like,
I know.
Is there time for a story?
I know, exactly. and then also just like not only work, these stories with specific clients, and I don't know how much of maybe it's not about the clients we're talking about, but so much as just what you were brought in to do.
Right.
Yes.
I think there's just a lot there, and that was an hour, and we flew through it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So thank you.
All right. So that was your first time here. Like Trey's heard some of this stuff before. What went through your mind hearing it?